Now for my campaign plans for running for the President of the United States of America. Okay, so I don't want to sound like a complete nut, and this is going to be tough for me to send up, but somewhere in the mix, somewhere down the line, one of my goals is I know this sounds crazy, but is to be a running candidate for presidency of the United States of America. What party do I side on? I'm pro-life, so that's obvious. Okay, I'm very pro-life. That would be the thing. If they asked me in a meeting, they said, what is your running thing? What is the main thing that you're running with? What is your MO for running for, let's say, the President of the United States? Okay, everyone should probably think this way because all a president is a representative. And I would say life, pro-life. That's what I would, that's the thing, that's the most important thing for me in running is to be pro-life. And then, of course, I think that there are fathers out there that are in bondage because of financial situations, whether it be because of child support or just because how the economy is. I think there's many fathers and families that are in kind of like bondage in a way. And I think the economy is in a mess. And listen, I have to budget every day just to stay alive. We're all hurting right now as a country. Those are another thing. Rebuilding the country. Also, police reform. But I want to change the way the police officer thinks. That's the most important thing. I want to bring a new psychology to the police department. Am I anti-lethal weapon? I'm anti-police killing other people. But I know that there has to be protection. I just think that needs to be rethought about gun control and things like that. I'm not completely against that. I do think that every American has the right to own any type of gun, whether it be a bazooka, M60, or a hunting rifle. It doesn't matter the type. I think that every citizen should have the right to have that. That's also a belief. But I do think that we need to rethink the police officer's psychology. That's another thing. And then going back after that, I think there needs to be more importance in the church in the country, particularly Christianity. I side with the Christian Coalition. I am a Christian, and I'd be open about that. I think there should be more freedom in the church, which is another important founding thing, which does fit with policing. It does fit with pro-life, okay? So the church is the founding rock and Jesus Christ. So those are some important aspects. And why not have a president that's evangelical? Have we ever had one that really was? There's always a first time for everything. We had Nixon, of course, who was a Quaker, but I think he went the wrong way with being evangelical. I think he kind of destroyed that for a lot of other presidents. We had JFK, John F. Kennedy, who was Catholic. They're not exactly evangelical. Have we really had the first time an evangelical president? Bill Clinton messed it up, kind of in a way. I know I saw some stuff about him the other day. I don't know exactly if he was evangelical. So should we have a president that is part of the Christian Coalition? It's the first time for everything. So those are the things, I'm not going to lie, that I feel that God wants me to have if I do run in the future. And I wanted to say that. It's about 4 minutes. It's too long right now anyway. So I wanted to throw that out there. So part of this can be first vlogger president. The first president that's a vlogger, that has his own channel, Think about the fireside chats. There were fireside chats. Remember? It was FDR who sat by the radio, or he broadcasted and everyone sat by the radio to listen to the fireside chats. So this is part of a building process that may lead to possible running for office. Here's some things about me. Do I have military backing? I was going to be a Marine, but I chose to go theater arts. I have an artist backing. This would be the first time to have like an artist as a president. I think George Washington was kind of an artist in a way. Hamilton, who was not a president, was definitely an artist when it came to the Federal Reserve and handling money. So there are artists that have been part of government because there's an art to making money. So do I think an artist should get a chance too at a presidency, and someone also that sides with the Christian coalition? Sure, why not? So this would be a first time thing. Do I have a military backing? No, but my grandfather fought in World War II on the Atlantic side. Or was it Pacific? I don't want to say Pacific, I'm sorry. It was the Pacific side. Sorry, it was the Pacific War. I think that he was in an aircraft carrier, or he was on an aircraft carrier. I want to say Pacific side. Sorry about that. My grandfather did fight in World War II, and my father was drafted in Vietnam. So my father was part of the Vietnam era, and he taught in the military, in the Army side, special intelligence and radar. So I was raised by a military family, but my grandfather talked me out, and he talked me out of joining the Marines. And the buddy that I was going to join with lost his life in the second tour in Iraq. So I do have some military connection, meaning I'm friends with the military, but I'm also wanting the military to kind of rethink, just like the police, a psychology, rethink how they're going to approach any future wars so that there's less casualties of war. Also, I think going back to reform of the police, that they don't need to look at it as a war. The police need to come back to us as friends in our community. And even in some forms have more psychology in the police academy, so that they're trained to deal with situations, especially those that are mentally ill. That'll be another founding aspect of why I would run, is to help what I would call God's army, the crippled, the mentally ill, those that are helpless, those that are on the street, those that are suffering. That would also be a way to get rid of that. I want to also help our country get rid of homelessness altogether by launching a campaign to build what's called economical housing, and even in some cases mini houses for those that are extremely poverty-stricken and are on the street, where we can at least give them shelter. And to make this build jobs in our country so that people get good at building houses for those that are in need. And then lastly, it would be a campaign of family. Not necessarily just family to those fathers that are biological fathers that do have children, but a family as a country. And one of my slogans would be, let's bring family back to America. Let's become a family. Multiculturalism is something I studied at UNT when I became a teacher. I was a teacher at a private school for a while. And we learned that multiculturalism is a founding aspect of celebrating other people's culture. I recently have applied to Carroll High School in Southlake. And one of the things that I mentioned was celebrating culture. Celebrating it. Not necessarily just having, African American month, but celebrating it throughout the year. That we're different cultures and we can celebrate one another rather than just assign certain holidays and saying this is your day. No, it's every day that we celebrate our differences and different cultures. So I just wanted to say that it's only 8 minutes, and this will probably be a separate one. I'm not currently running right now because I don't have any funding, but I do have a donation thing, and anyone else is interested in jumping on board, let me know. This could all be done maybe starting through YouTube. It is a social media platform. It does sound a little crazy, but I feel like I can help this country grow and release people from these different bondages, change the way police officers think, develop our country's housing situation. And then, one thing I haven't mentioned, of course, is CDC and the crisis that's going on with Corona. And I would say pro-mask, meaning 6-foot rule to be enforced, and also a vaccination still to be an option, not to be forced upon somebody. Remember, we are our own bodies. We are to protect our own bodies the way that we feel. If you feel you need to be vaccinated, it's perfectly fine, but it shouldn't be forced, especially what's going on with police officers right now. They're forcing them to be vaccinated. I'm actually against that. But I do think we should let it be there, meaning we should allow people to be vaccinated or allow them to make that choice. But we should also be respectful and keep 6 foot, and we should also be respectful and wear a mask, because we don't know the design of this possible problem. Just to say that it doesn't exist is wrong. So to address it and to be a part of government planning, so to allow other people to make those decisions for themselves. Ultimately, I would say at my heart, I'm a Republican. Ultimately, because of pro-life. So wearing a mask is important, but not wearing a mask is important too. It's your body and it's your decision. But to be respectful to one another, the most important thing, to respect one another's life. Now, one of my crazy economic things is I think that money is a problem with humanity. I feel that money is a form of discipline. So it puts us in situations that disciplines us. But ultimately, I see a future someday, way in the future, where we as people, as a human species, as a human race, will one day rise above the whole money situation. That one day we will know that our passions will drive our wills. And that one day we will be able to function without currency. So it's kind of a Hamilton approach. I know it's crazy to say right now, but we'll be able, because of how digital money is being handled and Bitcoin and all this kind of stuff, eventually we'll be able to function without it, because we're people and we love one another. That's what I mean by family. Do you charge your family to come over and have Thanksgiving? No, you don't charge them. And that's how we should look at one another. We should all be able to celebrate Thanksgiving together. All the time. Every day is a Thanksgiving, because we should be thankful that we have that day. It's better to have the day than not to have that day. And I think sometimes money's importance is far valued to a limit that doesn't need to be there. Meaning we put money first sometimes. And that we quote that from the Bible, where it says that you shall have to make a decision. You cannot serve God and mammon. You cannot serve God and money. Eventually, I think that verse will lead us to a better country. That we want to serve God, not just serve money. Okay, so ultimately, what I'm trying to say is that there's a lot going on in me running. And I think this would be maybe the first evangelical and maybe even first artist. And of course, first vlogger that would ever make it into the White House. Anyway, I just feel this passion. I just wanted to say it. And y'all have a good night. And, and don't forget to subscribe. Y'all have a good night. Well, I'm at Buc-ee's and I'm cutting the show, so I'll send it up to you. Y'all have a good night. Remember to please subscribe. I do leave information about donations, so if you want to donate to this channel. I do believe, even though I am going to help with child support, I do believe it kind of violates the line between church and state. We'll talk about that later in detail. It's something I'm dealing with, is child support. Because my second wife ran off with the kids, and I don't know. It's a big mess right now. Anyway, y'all have a good night. Also, another thing too, it does help if you can, big thumbs up. and just watching the show helps the most. Also, you can hit the notifying bell. It'll remind you when the next video is uploaded. Y'all have a good night. Love you all, and sleep well.